why you shouldn't be applying for full stack roles as a beginner. I'm going to go through some horror stories from some other full stack junior developers who have wrote about their experience and their pains of trying to go for a full stack interview, and show you why you shouldn't be doing it and what the alternatives are and the things you can do to mitigate some of the pains that they've had. So let's go take a look. 7 hours of interviews over 8 rounds. WTF. This guy got so triggered he had to go straight to Reddit after this interview a couple months ago and just write what had happened. So he starts very calmly, what in the F has happened to our industry? Yeah, what has happened? Do tell. He starts with, I'm not currently looking for a job, but I'm a senior staff level engineer at a FANG adjacent company. Oh yeah, he's swinging it around. Where I've been since COVID hit. So he's been hibernating a bit. He's been playing it safe, and now this was his time to break free and make some money. Recently, a tier 3 company reached out about a project that actually looks exciting, but their interview process is absolutely insane. 7 hours long, over 8 rounds. Jesus. Split into 4 parts. And get this, 4 of them are coding rounds, with the first one being algorithms, leak code, easy, medium. And I haven't even touched this academic BS in 15 years. Not since my junior years of college. I solve real world problems with a proven track record. Fair enough. Okay. I built actual shite that matters. I built actual stuff that matters, and not solving ducking brain teasers on a whiteboard. Now, the audacity of these companies treating experienced engineers like fresh grads is mind-blowing. I'm out here shipping production code that impacts literally hundreds of millions of people, and they want us to reverse a binary tree or some other asinine BS. Get the hell out of here. Right, well, this guy's clearly triggered, and let's be honest, the big tech experience is probably one of the worst interview experiences on earth. Like, there probably isn't a worse interview out there than trying to interview for big tech. I'm happy to be proven wrong, but it is literally on the 9th level of hell. But this is the worst, and this is well known. So this isn't new. This isn't anything that's out of the ordinary. This is all very well known. So he says he's a senior staff level engineer, but then is surprised by this. So I actually wager he's probably not a senior staff level engineer. He's probably someone who's got 3 or 4 years and just about ticks the box, because everyone knows this, even if you're not in big tech, and it is a horrible, horrible process. So knowing that, and knowing you're going for a full stack role, there is an expectation that there are less full stack roles than specialized roles. So the competition is going to be higher. Are you willing to commit to months of interviews? Because if you guys didn't know, a big tech interview can take anywhere from 2 to 3 months from start to finish. All these rounds of interviews, all the prep that it takes, and negotiation, it is crazy. It takes a very, very long time. They take very long to respond to you as well. So whether it's the recruiters or the company themselves, they can take anywhere from a month to respond between emails. It's horrible. That's what it was like for Microsoft with me. So be very careful whenever you wade into this, especially as a full stack developer. And I'm going to go into why at the end of this. But keep this story in mind as we go on to the next one. Frustrated with my recent full stack developer experience. Frustrated with my recent full stack developer interview experience. I recently applied for a full stack developer position and wanted to share my frustrating interview experience. Oh, do tell. The role was advertised with a salary of just $1,000 a month. Wow. Yeah, you couldn't pay me enough to probably do full stack for $1,000 a month. But, you know, you've all got to start somewhere, which in itself was a red flag. Yeah, tell me about it. However, I proceeded with the interviews as I was genuinely interested in the position. By the way, $1,000 a month is above average income here in our country. All right, fair enough. The job was specifically for front-end development, and everything seemed promising after the initial technical interviews with the developers, but then came the final interview. Ooh, which took place from 12 a.m. to 1 a.m. Oh, glorious time. So I'm assuming he's interviewing with local people, and these people locally are asking him to go and have an interview at midnight. So that's very, very weird. Not exactly the best timing. I felt somewhat confident about my chances, but that changed quickly. So imagine that the people who interviewed him actually probably are quite international. They might not be living in his country. That's probably why it is that time. In the final interview, the CTO asked me to share my screen for a coding test. I started to get nervous, fearing I might not be able to answer or complete the problem. To my surprise, I was presented with a problem known as 312 burst balloon. That sounds like a military operation, like something you'd see in Area 51 that escaped. This problem was not only unexpected, but also extremely challenging. I tried my best, but my final answer was not correct. Oh no, this is nightmare scenario. This is a nightmare scenario. And I believe that this was the reason why the job offer didn't proceed. Didn't give the right answer in an interview, didn't get the offer. I probably conclude the same. I'm feeling incredibly frustrated after researching it, and I discovered that the problem I was given is considered one of the most difficult coding problems on platforms like LeetCode. And yes, it is. It definitely is. And it's making me... Now, it begs the question, is it reasonable to require a front-end developer to solve such complex coding problems? Now, he says it's a full-stack developer interview, but now he's saying it's a front-end, he's a front-end developer. So was he stretching his abilities to get this full-stack role? And therefore, when they asked him with a data-based question, which is what it is, he got frustrated. Now, I've got a few takes on this, but let's finish this paragraph and then we'll go to that. Now, especially when I had proven experience and shared my results and code during the interview. Now, just to go back to that point, he's saying he's a front-end developer and he's going for a full-stack developer interview. Now, for those of you who don't know, you probably do know, full-stack developers get paid 30% more than a specialized field of, let's say, front-end or back-end development. So it's a very appealing thing to want to get into, especially as a junior, because you're like, oh, I see that 30% price tag. If I just watch a few YouTube tutorials, I might be able to get that full stack job over being a front end. Why would I just stop there? Why not just become a full stack? Well, this is exactly why. He thought that he could go for a job that essentially would mean he wouldn't be touching back end in the interview. And when he actually does get confronted with some data algorithmic questions, he cannot answer them. The side point being, they shouldn't be asking this question in the interview anyway. But the point being is that it is, from the interviewer's perspective, they're asking you on data. They're asking you on somewhat loose back-end development concepts and questions. And that's probably why they're asking it. So he's frustrated at that. But when you open yourself up to full stack web development, there is a much higher level of criticism that you are going to face in an interview. If you apply for just a back-end development role or a front-end development role, you are going to face far less deviation from this. But obviously, this may have happened anyway. There are some people who interview for people who want to just do CSS and get asked how to reverse a link array or do all kinds of silly things like that. So he goes on to say, this experience has left me feeling not only angry, but also depressed. I'm questioning whether such an unreasonable expectations are the norm in the tech industry, and it's making me reconsider my career path. So it is normal in big tech. It is normal for full stack development roles, but it is not role if you specialize in front-end development and back-end development. It's rare, but it's far less likely you're going to get asked on very complex algo questions if you're going for a front-end development role, a UI design systems role, a component library contributor, or, something like that. You're far less likely to be asked that. If you go for big tech, well, they ask those questions to essentially weed out as many people as possible for free, aside from the time it takes the engineers to do it. So maybe it's not free, which is a bit silly on their part still. But overall, there are very few sectors in the web development industry that ask for these algo questions. And you know which ones they are. You know that they're big tech, you know that they're tech startups, and you know that they, like this person said, FANG where are they? FANG adjacent companies. When he says FANG adjacent companies, he means FANG wannabe companies. You want to avoid those companies at all costs, unless they've got a fat paycheck and you're willing to throw months of your life away at the risk of you possibly doing an 8-round interview and not getting the job. And he goes on to say, I'd appreciate any advice or insights from fellow developers who might have faced similar situations or who have insights on how to handle such challenges in tech interviews. Thank you for letting me vent and share my story. So if you're in that scenario, just don't answer the question. Just say, I'm sorry, I actually don't know how to answer this problem. I would answer it by going on to Google, figuring out the solution and learning it. But in terms of this question, I don't know. That's the best way. Be very honest, be very quick. Don't give them a wrong answer, meaning don't waste their time trying to solve it, knowing in the back of your head that you don't know how to solve it. Most senior developers would much rather you save the time and don't do that. If you had done everything perfectly else in the interview and then said, oh, I don't know how to do the burst balloon question, do you have another question that I can do? Possibly is an algo related, maybe that is related to the job. Find the confidence to be able to say that and be direct, because if they turn around and say, no, it's just this one, they're probably not going to be a good place to work. But if they turn around and go, okay, well, what about this question? Oh, well, can you do this? They may have other solutions for you, and you could what possibly would have turned into, a dog and pony show where you're like, oh, do I do this with burst balloon? And you pretend like you know what you're doing. You just waste everybody's time and everybody gets frustrated with you. You then turn it around and you're honest and you offer possible counter solutions and you become a very, very different candidate in their eyes. And to be honest, that's happened a lot of times. And I have actually hired people who have done stuff like that. So don't just take what's handed in front of you as the only option when you're in an interview. Say, I don't know how to do that. Do you have another possible question that I could answer for you? And if it is very wildly out of sync with the job you're going for, just say, could I have something that is related to full stack web development, front end development or back end development, whatever it is you're doing. That would be my out in this scenario to possibly save it. Because sometimes you're in a scenario where you've got an egotistical hiring manager or a CEO who is not going to hear you out anyway. And you've got to be prepared for that as well. But on the off chance he's not egotistical and he will offer you another side question, you could possibly pass that interview by just being honest that you don't know how to do this burst balloon question or whatever the tough question is. Last one. Got another rejection, really peed off. So I applied for a developer job. Got a friend on the inside to recommend me. They wanted, I could tell this is probably a big tech interview because that's generally what they do. It's all about who you know. They wanted, as I said, 6 months of experience of programming wanted, and the degree is not necessary. Okay, clearly a junior position. Yeah, I'd agree. I got a friend on the inside to recommend me. He's already said that. After the recruiter dragged the process out for a month and a half. Again, this is big tech. Big tech wastes your time. They have so many applications, like thousands and thousands. It is very, very difficult for them to answer all of them, to reply to all of them. So you will probably wait weeks or months between replies. Or not, maybe not months, but a month at least. I get an interview at the company. After 2 days, I receive news that they suddenly realize they will get a lot of thesis workers in a couple of months, and therefore cannot take any more juniors at the moment. This isn't something they realized in 2 days. This is something that they have had. This is something that they have known all along. And yep, that is true. They probably had all the candidates they needed and decided that they don't want to hire anymore. And again, this goes back to so many people apply for a job. In a normal job setting, you're probably done with 10% of the applicants they get or 5% of the applicants they get, and they still have to process the rest. So they probably just made up something like this just to say, I don't want to interview any more people. I can't be bothered. Let's just hire from the first 5% of candidates. And it's the whole thing of, you get a stack of candidates. This is typical big tech stuff. You kind of take it in half and throw the other half in the bin. That's literally how big tech interviews work. So that's my take on pretty much what happened here. They just couldn't be bothered to carry on interviewing. and they just secured someone from the first pool of people they interviewed or shortlisted. So, and then he turns around and says, at the moment they are looking for more senior backend devs. So what am I supposed to do? It feels like every company I have interviewed at for juniors is that they ask for juniors in their wanted ads, but in reality are expecting seniors. I at an end here. Should I just give up? No, that is something that did happen, in particular after COVID. And I'll probably say around 2021 particular to 2023, that was where it was at the worst. And they were just outright saying, no, we're not hiring juniors, we're hiring seniors. And then it clocked on. There are less and less seniors if you keep doing that, because there are more and more companies that keep growing, and there are more and more jobs and apps that need creating. And if you keep just trying to work with the same pool of senior engineers, well, you're not going to be able to build anything. So you do need to hire juniors to be able to keep the market growing. And it stalled for a while, but it's starting to pick up again. But in terms of this here, I think this is very much true with full stack development. And this is bringing it all together for all of these 3 articles or posts that we've seen from frustrated full stack web developers. From what I can see, a lot of them are essentially either back-end developers or front-end developers pushing their luck. Because as a junior web developer, you are not a full stack developer, full stop. You do not have an equal amount of expertise in front-end development as you do in web development, unless you're terrible in both, and then you're like, I'm just equally terrible, hire me. And no one's going to want to hire you because they don't want someone who's weak on both. They want someone who's good on both. And if you go as a front-end developer and you're a really good front-end developer, chances are you're not going to be that strong a back-end developer as a junior. So the pool of jobs for a full-stack web developer are very small. They're much smaller than a specialized front-end, back-end developer. That's the first point. Second point is it's extremely difficult to get a full-stack web developer junior position because all hiring managers know is that they are taking a big risk. They need the best candidate they can get. So they can afford to be picky because there are just so many people applying and there are so few roles, so they get many, many candidates. And chances are you probably just aren't good enough on back end and front end as you think you may be, and there's just far more competition. So you're up against far more people than you would be if you were doing a specialized role, and everyone gets lured in with the carrot on a stick about it just being 30% more of a salary. So don't get fooled by any of that. Don't waste your time and get stuck in 8-round interviews or get stuck in any of these situations, because you could waste a lot of time doing this. And instead you could be specializing in just front-end web development, getting really strong at that, and then being able to go and get these jobs. And once you've done about 2 to 3 years of front-end web development, you could then apply to be a full stack web developer once you've spent that time learning back-end web development as well. And in that time, you've built the trust, you've built the expertise, you've built projects, and you have something to show. But there is a counter to that. If you have good projects that show and prove you can be a full stack web developer, then maybe that could flip the script. Now, you could either do this at the 2 to 3 year mark, or you could do this as a junior. And that is building projects like this. Now, Firebase, Supabase, and other places like this have these systems called real-time presence. And essentially it just synchronizes shared state using WebSockets. Now, again, if you're going to become a full stack web developer, you need to understand what that means. And this is real streaming data coming in at all times. And what can it be used for? Well, it can be used for things like this. Well, we call it presence indicators. It shows whether someone's online, offline, as they go online, as they go offline. So if you go on Discord, Slack, you'll see when users go online, you'll see when users go offline, you'll see if they post a status, you'll be seeing all these things in real time as they change, and it updates the UI as it happens. So if you want to essentially stand out in these interviews, or if you want to wait 2 to 3 years and then make a switch, then these are the projects you need to build. And I don't find many people out there talking about this to juniors. And as someone who is a senior lead engineer who hires junior front-end developers, trust me when I say projects like this will make you stand out. So please, please, please build projects like this We could use more of them out there in the junior recruitment space because there's just not enough out there. So build presence indicators. These are great projects to have in your GitHub. It shows that you really do think about UI, you really do think about full stack web development. And you could use a combination of Supabase, so it's all free to sign up, and you could build this in something like Next.js, React, Angular, whatever you want. And this would be amazing. And essentially just do an online offline thing. So you could maybe use Google authentication for someone to log in, and then it grabs their avatar from their email, and then you log in through that, and then it just shows whether you're online on a dashboard or not. Then you could go into a new window and log in as somebody else with a different email address, and you could see when you're on and when you're off, and you can have a login, log out button and have this working. What a great project that would be. And that is what I would suggest, projects like that, to essentially clinch those interviews. And in terms of getting bamboozled by these, algo questions and getting your time wasted, be very careful where you put your energy, especially in interviews. Big tech is very, very saturated. And for full stack web development, you're going to have an even tougher time. People are so eager just to chase the bag, chase the money, and try and get that 30% increased salary. Whereas they don't realize that doing so means that they will just end up with nothing. It is better to start with something, get your foot in the door with projects like this, and not having to do algo questions like any of this, and being able to be in the industry to then become a full stack web developer in 2 to 3 years. Delayed gratification, planning for the future, and thinking ahead. This is something that a lot of people don't do. And if you follow all of these tips, you have a chance at making a beautiful, beautiful career in tech and being able to create cool stuff like this. So I hope that was useful. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.